getting passed by multiple cars, as I mentioned earlier on. So Nuoff in a very precarious situation, but he often finds himself in these places. He doesn't qualify as well as he races.
Up front, they are getting with Lee Aberdeen and Luca Varani not very far apart at all here. But I just want to see how Alistair Hayes deals with Marcello Kessler coming around the old hairpin.
I would say it's not the best decision they've ever made, just not having done that under the safety car, really.
Yeah, they're taking their pit stop strategies from Ferrari lately or something. What's going on?
In turn one, just too much gas on them, too much feet on the loud pedal, and unfortunately he's dropped all the way down the order. But Phillip Hammer is out in front by an 8.91 seconds. Dan Michael is a wall there, sir. And definitely doesn't want to be hitting that earlier on as well.
Difficult, the understeer is in the dirty air through that final corner because it's such a long corner and you get dragged off into the grass very easily. He'll have the slipstream down towards the chicane. Peterson was briefly alongside, but that slipstream has saved him and kept him in third.
Yeah, Varani now lost a little bit of time to Aberdeen, about half a second. Peterson is Pike's pushed more and forward up ahead. He's got out of line. Is now Pike going to have a go at Werrell? Don't push him off. He's in the championship fight. Jack Werrell chasing down Carl Jacklin. Further down, Rob Williams and Chris Barnes.
Sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly. Miller's still such up. He's touched on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
On to the back end of Phil Jocelyn. So there's been a lot of movers and shakers in this first 2 laps here for race.
Absolutely serious racing league. Everybody's a lot to have fun. Yeah, it's all about the entertainment. So I hope everybody is enjoying themselves out there in the chat. We know that Ron is been enjoying himself watching the Burger King machines off into the grass a little bit there as they're really bunching up now.
Good evening and welcome to the UkSimracers series of MX5, round 5 of the championship of this summer season. We are at the Phillip Island circuit, situated in the Australian state of Victoria. I'm Tom Kent in the commentary position, and alongside me is the man behind the broadcasting side of things. That is a Mr. James Parfitt. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, young man. How are you?
Excellent, thank you very much. I think some people have been in the sort of summer theme as it has been, obviously with all the sport that's been going on, both, maybe in motor racing or perhaps in other sports like football and all that. But in the matters of things, in relation to what we're here for, the UK SimRacers series, we've done 4 rounds, the first being at Sebring in the US, and then we were at Watkins Glen, followed by Alton Park, and most recently at the Rebel Ring. Tonight we're at Phillip Island. We'll run down on the championship standings in the overall series for 2024. So Dan Hunt leads the way with 2,052 points, 112 clear of second place Tom Griffiths, and it's Pete Van Gogh in third with 1,851. It's Jamie Ayres and Jamie Wilson in fourth and fifth places respectively. Pete Newman sixth, ahead of Ralph Cunningham and Steve Hefford. Charles Cullinan is ninth, and rounding out the top 10 is Colin Sanson on 1,247 points, 805 points off the top. Darrell Wright is 11th, followed by Fiona Siddons, and it's Martin Sampson, Miles Owens, Andy Littler, Alan Toon, that is, Darren McLean, and Steve Hansford, along with Ollie Ricks, John Sylvester, Mick Barry, Roger Morton, Ewan Bremer, Kellen McPherson, and no Chanania, apologies if I mispronounced that, Ray Jones, Dan Dennison, Dan Lewis, and Dries Nice, rounding out all of those to have scored points so far this season overall. We'll run down on the championship in relation to the summer series. We'll begin with Pro. Dan Hunt leads the way on 535 points, 41 clear over Pete Van Gogh, and it's Jamie Wilson in third place ahead of Tom Griffiths. Jamie Ayres is fifth on 410 points, 125 off the top. Steve Hefford safe ahead of Ralph Cullinan, and it's Pete Newman, Martin Simpson, and Dries Nice, all who have scored points so far in the summer phase of this season. On to the AM series in blue. We've got Ollie Ricks, who apparently isn't around this evening, but going into tonight, he is leading the way on 468 points. It looks like he's 8 clear of Roger Morton in second place, who is gunning for a strong performance this evening. Charles Cullinan is in third place, followed by Darren McLean and Darrell Wright, and it's Colin Sanson, Fiona Siddons, Alan Toon, Andy Littler, Steve Hansford, and Mick Barry, running out all of those who have scored so far. In relation to, and I think qualifying's begun, James, as far as I am aware.
Yeah, we are up and running. There is the overall team standings. This is both seasons together. You see Momo out in front of 4876. Results clothing on second. Optical Green, Work Guide, DOF. Team Jumeirah, Pure Sims, Safeguard by result. Year 1, SimRace Sweden, Pure Sims, and Aerokinetics out of the back. But I think this is going to be an interesting one. They are out and qualifying at the moment. Dan Hunt leading us out here, of course, for the first time as he's at the front here. What do we think about Phillip Island, though, Tom? Where's going to be the tough bits? Where's going to be the simple bits?
Well, the simple bits is most certainly going to be the kinks that they're going to go through, particularly the stoner corner of turn number 3. I think the ones which they most certainly need to be getting right are those of the likes of turn 2, where I think you can afford to take a wider line than normal because of the exit speeds you can gain on the exit there. There's Miller corner, one of the sharpest corners of the circuit. Of course, the turn 10, which is the third to last corner of the racetrack before the sweeping left-handers of 11 and 12, which takes you onto the Gardner Straits. The Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit is, of course, home to the Australian MotoGP event, which they have annually, as they have done since 2022. They had a couple of years hiatus because of the COVID-19 pandemic, but they made a rather swift return, and they seem to very much enjoy the circuit, do the MotoGP riders. And I'd like to think that those involved in the iRacing side of things, most particularly the UK SimRacer drivers that you're seeing on circuit, they seem to like the track as well. They've done a lot of practice heading into this qualifying session, 15 minutes long. They don't have long to get the laps in. In terms of lap times, we're probably looking at around 1 minute 47, 1 minute 48. They are going around to complete their first lap times. These could end up being the best lap times, given how foggy the circuit is, James. This is not quite what we've seen in the past before, has it?
No, it definitely isn't, and that might be the fact that obviously we're partly cloudy at 19 degrees. Now, whether or not we generally see rain in race 4, and whether or not we're going to get that surprise in race 1, to be blatantly honest, it'll be interesting to sit back and watch. I can give you some breaking news just fresh off the press. Ollie Ricks has joined the session, and he is out in qualifying. So the man leading the AM Championship did make it. However, he's on the grass at the moment, so that's not a good idea. But he is out on the racetrack, so that's always good.
Excellent to see. So good to see Ollie Ricks, the leader in the AM Championship in the summer phase of this season, he's in. But bearing in mind, James, he didn't start the last 2 races at the Rebel Ring. We didn't quite pick up at the time as to why that was, but it was a little bit of a dent, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? That's probably why he's so close to Charles Kellerman as he is at the moment. You know, there's not a lot of points difference between them going into the summer season, and I think overall that's probably why he lost them points being in race 1 and race 2, or he got points in race 1 and race 2, didn't show up for race 3 and race 4. And I do wonder that they may have dented him. Will he look back over this season and think, oh, I should have made that, or I should have gone, or should have stayed in, or whatever the situation was for Ollie Ricks? Obviously he didn't, and it's cost him. He's now, as I say, 8 points in the grasp of the hands of Roger Morton at the moment. So Morton's got a lot on his plate. He's got a lot to try and, you know, come back for. He's come back for new this season. He's got to make sure that obviously he gets it right. He's in the arms, he's got the opportunity of winning, but he has got Ollie Ricks as a problem.
Yeah, 50 points for a race win as well in any of the 4 races, so you could walk out of a round with 200 points in your back pocket. And Ollie Ricks had quite a margin over everyone else going into the Rebel Ring round, but not quite so now with Roger Morton right on his tail. We are seeing drivers posting improvements. Pete Newman, top of the timing pages, with 1 minute 45.6. That is run about 6 tenths clear over Jamie Ayres. It's Steve Hefford in 3rd place with Pete Fingall. You can see in your picture in 4th position, I believe, or is that Roger Morton in picture? Couldn't quite tell there.
It's Roger Morton.
It's Roger Morton. My apologies for that. But yes, so Roger Morton on a 154.6, not representative by any means, so we are expecting a radical improvement from him. He is making his way. Where is he? He's going through turn number 3, isn't he? As he heads towards the sharper right-hander of 4.
Yeah, he's coming into the right-hander, of course. Obviously, it's a very tricky scenario in general, this track as well. Through Honda, he's going to go then through the left-hander of Siberia and then up into turn 7, where he'll lead it into the hayshed. And it's a very difficult circuit. This uphill kind of next section is very tough, and you've got to go through Lukey Heights to get down into MG, and that's not easy in general. So there's going to be a lot of people, I think, making sure they can get laps on the board here.
Steve Hefford went purple in sector number 1. Dan Hunt is coming round to complete his latest lap. We'll look to see where he is at. He's currently 5th on the timing tower. He aims to move up the order as we speak.
Yeah, he's looking at trying to make his way through. Martin Sampson sitting down 7th in class at the moment. He's 13th overall. Then you got Dan Hunt, who's just gone over the line as well. Steve Hefford's going to make a move into 2nd place. Dan Hunt goes down into 3rd. Pete Newman still leads the way. Martin Sampson puts himself up the order in 5th as well. So a great job from these guys as they're battling away here as well. So, yeah, awesome job from all of them. And they've still got 9 minutes to go.
Absolutely so. Roger Morton moving up to 9th place overall and 2nd in class behind Darrell Wright. Then it's Charles Kellerman in 10th position. We are seeing some more drivers crossing over the line. Darren McLean's gone over the line, but it's not really an improvement from what he had done before. And he remains in 12th position and 5th in class. Sir Alan Tooney is on the lap, as is Jamie Wilson. Dan Hunt and Jamie Ayres also aiming for improvements, with there being 8.5 minutes to go in this qualifying session to determine the grid for race number 1 of the evening here at Phillip Island in Australia. And Pete Newman doing all he can right now. Remember, last week, if you did tune in, Pete Newman missed the first 2 races due to other commitments going on around him. But he did come back to the last 2 races of the evening at the Rebel Ring, and he won the first of those 2 races. So it was quite a recovery there for Newman, but he needs to continue making up for lost ground and start putting together a string of results if he is to mount some form of title challenge in the pro class. Steve Hefford going well in P2. We are seeing drivers coming over the line now. We are seeing Jamie Wilson, who is heading towards the end of his lap. Where does he end up as he crosses over the line? Don't know if he's actually improving as we speak, but he has gone. In fact, this is his first time lap, is Jamie Wilson, so that's not a representative by any means. 155.3 is not representative at all. Pete Newman does, I think, did he improve on that lap time? I think he did by the narrowest of margins. 145.4, I think he is on now. 3 tenths clear over Jamie Ayres. That's Steve Hefford in 3rd position over Dan Hunt. Sampson is in the pits. Van Goor's out on circuit. He's in 6th place. and Darrell Wright is the fastest out of all those in the AM class.
Yeah, Darrell Wright is leading the way here as well, with Ollie Ricks sitting down on a 155 at the moment. Sir Alan Toon's a little bit further down, as I got a lap time on the board either. And then you got Pete Newman, Jamie Ayres, PVG, and Steve Hefford. So a lot been going on in qualifying. As say, Pete Newman 145.49 or 484, I should say, at the front of the field here. Tom, it's going to get very, very interesting. We'll have to see how it goes on as the session goes on, with 6 minutes remaining.
So Alan Toon continuing to set the pace. Well, I say set the pace. He's still going greens in sectors 1 and 2. So Alan Toon on the time. And so I think he's yet to get a time on the board, actually, which explains why he's gone green. But let's see if he crosses over the line to be amongst those there. He's going to end up towards the bottom, I would have thought there. So Sir Alan Toon goes to, I think, behind Mick Berry. I'm not even sure if that was a valid lap time there for Sir Alan Toon, so he'll have to go again. Or he just got held up there by, it was just got held up as he went into turn number 1 there. I couldn't quite tell. But Jamie Wilson's coming round towards his latest lap. It doesn't look like he's going to improve, is it? Or is it going to be improvement on a 155? Though he had a spin there. I think that was Ollie Ricks, wasn't it?
Yeah, Ollie Ricks had gone round there, unfortunately, for the safety car by result clothing guys as well. Ollie's just come fresh out of the pit lane. Then you got Darrell Wright and Roger Morton. Ralph Cullinan sitting down in 9th at the moment, the Irishman as well, for the pros, so 7th overall. And then Jamie Wilson, who's having a little bit of a problem, is on this racetrack as well. Not his usual position, down in 13th at the moment. He's been doing a great job in the standings, currently sitting in, where is he? 5th place overall.
So Roger Morton not on a represented time. One driver is trying to go for an improvement. He's Darren McLean. He's going over the line now, but it doesn't look like he's actually improving his McLean. And I think it's coming to the point in this session, James, where the times that we've seen already are probably going to be the best times, because these tyres do fall off the cliff quite quickly, if I can get my words out. Yes. Anyway.
I thought I was the old man in the booth, mate. I'm the one with the fixer dent. You know what I mean? Come on. You're supposed to have your teeth in order. Yeah, you're right. I think this is the thing, though. You know, depending on how much practice these guys have done, is dependent on how well they're going to do, right? It's common sense. If you haven't done a lot, then you aren't going to do well. And if you haven't rocked up and utilised the 3-hour practice coming into this, because, you know, the session opens at 5:30, I believe it is, and they've got 2.5 hours to practice. If you haven't utilised that, and you've come fresh off dinner, and you've ran and registered, this is what you're going to get. You've got to utilise that practice time that you've been given, and these guys do give you quite a lot.
Absolutely. So we have Steve Hansford has just joined in the qualifying session now. He's aiming to improve on what he has got. Could you have a bit of an advantage, James? Because the fact that some of the rubber is laid out, the track is picking up, with the tyres he's got already, and but he's not been out in qualifying that much, could this play into his hands and be the fastest out of all those in AM, most particularly Darrell Wright and Roger Morton?
It depends on how well they drive. It's like anything. You can have all the grip in the world, and if you can't utilise it and drive it properly, it ain't going to matter. And that's the thing. You know, I don't expect Steve Hansford to be in pole. Will he get to the top of like Kellerman, Littler, Siddons? Yeah, why not? He's got the pace. Can he catch Wright or Morton? Well, that's a different story. Both of them are very borderline pros here. So I think for the likes of Steve Hansford, he's got to try and utilise what's been laid down, but he's got to utilise it properly, because otherwise, if you've got all the rubber in the world, you've got all the grip in the world, and you can't drive it, it ain't going to matter.
Absolutely so. Steve Hansford is on a lap as we speak. Oh, is that Steve Hansford in that green and black and white liveried Mazda? He's coming towards turn number 10, and he's got 2 more corners to get through before the end of the lap. Behind him, he's got Sir Alan Toon and Ollie Ricks, who are gunning for improvements. Ollie Ricks improving through sectors 1 and 2, but sector 3 is where the drivers seem to be lacking a little bit. But let's hope the likes of Hansford and Ricks prove me wrong. Hansford coming around the sweeping left-hander. It must feel so satisfying going through there to conclude the end of the lap. Hansford going over the line, and I think this is only going to be enough for 1 minute 50 something. He does go to 1:52. Behind him, Ollie Ricks did get a more representative time in, but he's well off the pace.
Yeah, again, Ollie's obviously had a bit of a rough one coming in. Oh, somebody off the grass there. That was Steve Hansford off the grass. There was somebody else involved in that one. I think that might have been Sir Alan Toon as well. He's back in the pit lane. Pete Newman still out. Again, some people, as you say, have great tracks, Tom. Some people don't have great tracks. And this could be just one of them tracks for Ollie Ricks.
Yeah, I think there's another one, because the Rebel Ring, it wasn't quite Ollie Ricks's circuit, was it? Compared to what we've seen from him. Because if you remember in Watkins Glen, he won all of 4 races in the AM class, which is very, very phenomenal by his standards. But he hasn't exactly been in the same level of form since then. And I wonder if this could be another challenge for him this evening.
Yeah, whenever you're having a bad race, wherever you're having a bad racing and you're having it's how you recover, right? It's a minimal damage, isn't it? He might not be the fastest, he might not like Phillip Island, but he's got to be there to score points every single time, and that's the importance of this.
Absolutely so. We've got 1 minute to go in this qualifying session. Ollie Ricks is on another improvement, but he's nowhere near to the likes of where Darrell Wright and Roger Morton are. I don't know if he's just... I don't know how much practice he has had so far this evening, but we'll look to see how he gets on with this late start. It will be his last time lap, because once the clock reaches 0 via the algorithms of iRacing, you can't finish your lap, even if you are on the most competitive lap out there. But we'll see what Ollie Ricks produces here. Where does he go with his lap? He goes in front of Sir Alan Toon and Steve Hansford, the 149.4, so he's quite some way behind. 16th overall it is for him. Ralph Cullingham going over the line. Where does he end up? I don't think it was an improvement from before. His fastest time is a 146.7. His latest lap wasn't better than that one, so he remains 9th overall and 7th in class in the pro category for Ralph. He will be gunning for an improvement on what he has had. How would you assess his season so far for Ralph Cullingham? Because it always feels like he's in the wars so much of the time. We've yet to see the best of him.
He's a journeyman that's nearly a nearly man. He's nearly there. He's nearly at the front. He nearly is a winner. He's got to get that consistency. That's the thing.
We'll run down on the grid then for race number 1 at the end of qualifying. Pete Newman on pole position with Dan Hunt alongside them. We've got Jamie Ayres and Pete Funkel on row 2, followed by Steve Hefford and Martin Sampson. Darrell Wright, the fastest of those in AM, alongside Roger Morton. Then we've got Ralph Cullingham and Jamie Wilson, rounding out the top 10. Charles Kellerman and Andy Littler are on the 6th row of the grid before we head to Darren McLean and Fiona Siddons. We've got Mick Barry and Ollie Ricks in 16th. Sir Alan Toon and Steve Hansford make up the 18 drivers on the grid for the start of race number 1 here at Phillip Island. We await for the 5 red lights to come on. Don't worry about the clock. That usually happens when a new session does sort of begin. And we'll wait for the 5 red lights to appear on the screen, which will signal the start of the first of 4 races here in Australia. Now, how does Pete Newman get on here with Dan Hunt alongside? Dan Hunt had a good round last week at the Red Bull Ring, as did Jamie Ayres. They'll be hoping to build on that here this evening. And the drivers are waiting patiently for the race to begin. It looks like everyone is in position and ready to go. 1 light is on, and we wait for 2, 3, 4, and 5. Lights are on. Lights off here at Phillip Island. Pete Newman gets away well. How does Dan Hunt get on? And Jamie Ayres is looking to tuck in behind these two, but it seems to be pretty much in order as they head into turn number 1. That is the Doohan corner. Pete Newman out in front ahead of Dan Hunt with Jamie Ayres and Pete Kunkel alongside. Steve Hefford and Martin Sampson are still in 5th and 6th. It seems to be pretty much in order, although someone's gone a little bit wider. There was a little bit of contact going into turn number 2, but nothing major by any means. And Pete Newman leads out in front, James.
Yeah, he's got a great start at the moment here as well as Pete Newman. He's opened up nearly half a second already on through into Honda there. You saw Dan Hunt and Jamie Ayres get away. Nobody in the top 8 has changed position. Roger Morton is still where he is. Jamie Wilson is trying to come through the field. He's up 1 place at the moment. Oh,
Pete Newman.
Newman's come round.
He has. Pete Newman's gone round at turn number 4 there. We'll get a replay to see how he's managed to do that. Has someone run into him, or did he lose it by himself?
Oh,
he's got the power down too early.
all on his own. All on his own for Mr. Newman.
Yeah, I think the fact is there's no traction control, I don't think, in these Mazda MX5s, and that exactly was what caught Pete Newman out there, and that has cost him dearly. He's got all the time he needs to get back into it. It's not a long race by any means. It's only 15 minutes, and judging by the times we have seen over the course of qualifying, I would expect we're looking around either an 8 or a 9 lap race. I'd probably lean more towards 8, but we'll see how the race progresses. So Dan Hunt is your new race leader with Jamie Ayres in second place. It's the Dutchman Pete van Gogh in third with Steve Hefford fourth. Darrell Wright is leading out of all those in the AM class with Roger Morton right into the slipstream of that red and white liveried Mazda. And now they are concluding the first lap. And it looks like Morton is making a move on right.
Yeah, he's trying to look up the inside, but he's settled back in behind him here, Morton, and he's not stupid. Roger Morton is not a stupid driver. If he knows he can't make it, he won't, but he's got to be careful of that. These cars don't stop very well on the grass. You saw Steve Hefford in front of them go off the side of the circuit as well. Fiona Siddons is just about to go up the inside of Mick Barry, who's taken a trip into the undergrowth there. A bit of David Attenborough there. Forest digging for Mick Barry. Pete Newman's trying to come back through the field at the moment as well. He's down with Sir Alan Toon. Roger Morton, after we left him, has unfortunately done this. So Morton there, hard on the brakes. That's going to be a tap. Yep.
Yeah, it's Ralph Cullingham. It's Ralph Cullingham that's run into the back of Roger Morton. We were saying about Ralph Cullingham before the race has started. It always feels like he's involved in someone else's incident everywhere you look him. We've seen it time and time again, and that's another one right there for the archive. But yes, unfortunately for Roger Morton, he's fallen down the order, and he's down to 14th position. Cullingham keeps going. He's in 6th place overall behind Darrell Wright. And we are looking at the front with Jamie Ayres right on the tail of Dan Hunt.
Yeah, you can see he's trying to chase him at the moment. They've gone up over Lukey Heights, coming down into MG. Hunt is in the lead there. Ayres is tucked in right behind him. He's also got his teammate, a PVG, behind that as well, with the other Momo of Steve Hefford. So it's the poor old DOF reality all on his own here at the front. It's a 1 versus 3 man battle. And unfortunately for Dan, there's no help around him. He's never had a teammate as long as I've been here. So Dan Hunt is just solo in this whole thing, coming down into turn 1 at the moment.
So Hunt into the draft of Hunt as they, Ayres into the draft of Hunt as they complete the second lap. We're now on lap number 3, and it looks like Hunt is just waiting back a little bit, not trying too much. It's not worth having to go in at this stage. This is not where the race will be won, but it could be where it can be lost. And I think Ayres is just holding his chips back and just waiting until the right moment.
Yeah, he's trying as much as he can, isn't he? He knows he's going to have time. They've got 10 minutes remaining here. Ralph Cullingham is still tucked in at the moment behind Darrell Wright. These guys are on the same team. I'm hoping they don't do anything silly to each other. I'm hoping that Ralph can just clear Darrell without any issues, and he does do. Darrell Wright looked like he let him go there, give or take. Then you got Darrell McLean. He's under attack from the likes of Ollie Ricks. Ollie seems to have got his eye in now. Into the race session we go, and he's sitting in 9th at the moment there for Ollie Ricks, and it's 4th in class, so a good job from him.
Ollie Ricks clicking into gear now after a difficult qualifying session. He's making his way through the field safe and sound. He's in 4th position in class, but he'll want to be on the podium at the minimum to keep hold of the margin he has over Roger Morton in the AM series in the summer campaign. Roger Morton 7th in class for your information, and Ricks is on the tail of Darren McLean for 3rd in that respective category. Dan Hunt still leading the way over Jamie Ayres. Pete van Gogh still within a second of the race leader, and Steve Hefford in 4th. If we get a repeat of what happened in race 1 at the Rebel Ring 7 days ago, James, this could be a very, very spicy encounter for the quadruplet leading out in front.
Yeah, yes. It was quite eventful, wasn't it, last week? So I'm hoping it doesn't get there. But then again, well, you never know. It's 3 teammates versus 1 at the front at the moment of obviously the Momo, Ayres, Van Gogh and Hefford. So you just never quite know how it's going to turn out. You've got Pete Newman trying to slice through the field. He's next up. He's got Ollie Ricks. He's gone past Siddons. He's gone past Littler. So he's trying to get through. He's got... Ollie Ricks is no slouch, mind you. I wouldn't say he's quite on the pace with Pete Newman, but he isn't a slouch in the old speed table. Well, as I say that, Newman goes through. So, yeah, another one for Pete Newman, and now Fiona Siddons is having to go at Ollie Ricks as well.
Siddons is having a spirited race so far. She's having a go on Ollie Ricks as they head into turn number 3, and now they approach the sharper hairpin of turn number 4. Ollie Ricks on the inside of Siddons, and Siddons sensibly lets Ricks go because she knows that Ricks was always going to have the high ground on the exit, and so she plays the sensible game and lets him through. Pete Newman on the tail of Darren McLean as he looks to continue his recovery after a disastrous start to the beginning of this one, and he's able to get through McLean no problem.
Yeah, McLean's on the outside. He's going to have the inside for the next kink, but he'll have Newman should have the inside for the left-hander, which he does do going through Lukey Heights. So Pete Newman, good job from him on the recovery in 8th place. Don't forget it's the top 11 reverse at the moment. So Fiona Siddons is sitting on pole as Darren McLean goes round right in front of us.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's a really unfortunate moment there for Fiona Siddons, who will have probably picked up a little bit of damage by T-bone into the side of McLean. We'll get a replay on McLean's spin. It's probably similar to what Pete Newman had at the beginning of the race. We're just looking to say no one makes contact with him. He lost that all by himself.
Yeah, again, just carrying too much speed into the corner, and unfortunately that was it. Ralph Cullinan back behind Darryl Wright, but then we've got Jamie Ayres now, who's got Dan Hunt behind him with Steve Hefford. So still a lot quite happening, and this fight isn't done at the front.
Not by any stretch of the imagination. Hunt still leading the way over Ayres, but Ayres is so close, and it's a matter of when he actually decides to go for the overtake, but you don't want to battle too much, as you don't want your rivals behind to close in too much. We've got 7 minutes to go on lap number 5. I would say we are doing an 8-lap race, depending on how close we are with the time as they cross over the line. But in the meantime, we'll have a look to see how this quadruplet play out this particular battle. This is looking very, very exciting.
Yeah, the teammates that aren't teammates that are teammates that will fight like they aren't teammates. There you go. Just about sums it up really at the Momo team. They will fight each other, you know, they'll utilise what they've got until they start moving forward, and then when they get into the last, well, you're into the last 6 minutes now, give or take, they'll start battling away. So let's see what goes on, and let's see what develops between the Momo trio.
Yeah. So you've got Jamie Ayres in second place in the red liveried car, and behind him Pete Van Gool with the yellow rims on the tyres. Oh no, Steve Hefford, sorry, he's got the yellow rims on his tyres. Pete Van Gool is the next car behind that, all in red liveries cars, but we can still see by the car numbers anyway, at least, as in the number 46, Hefford on the number 72, and Pete Van Gool, by my memory, just looking at very, very close, I can't quite see what his car number is. James, can you remember what his car number is?
PVG is in car 39.
39, thank you very much for clearing that up for me. And we are now on lap number 6, and Hunt is looking, I don't want to say complacent, but he's in command at the moment, but he's just got to be wary of Jamie Ayres as to when Ayres is going to make that overtake. I mean, it's not going to be Ayres, is it going to be Hefford or Gool?
Well, knowing what these guys are like, I wouldn't like to think it would come from it. It could come from anybody. I'm going to be realistic. It could literally come from anywhere. You know, PVG has literally just gone up the inside of Steve Hefford at the moment. So PVG in the white roll bar has gone through. So he's going to set after Jamie Ayres now, and then makes a mistake, and Steve Hefford goes back through. So that's what I mean. It could literally be anybody. Steve Hansford and Darren McLean have had a moment. I don't know if they've had a moment together here, but Steve Hansford makes a mistake first, and then it looks, oh no, I've got a funny feeling Hansford's going to be in front of us here sideways. There he is. Yeah. And then Darren, I wonder why they... Yeah, McLean, oh, nowhere to go.
Yeah, it was a repeat of what happened last week on the exit of the Rebel Mobile call involving Charles Kellerman and someone else. I can't quite remember who it was that time. It might have been McLean thinking of it. But we are looking at Dan Hunt and Ayres going into combat for the first time in this race. Hunt going side by side with Ayres, but Ayres will have the inside line for turn number 11, and it's inevitable that Ayres is going to be in the lead coming into the end of lap number 6 here. They're about to go over the line, and I'll take back what I said earlier. I did say it was going to be an 8-lap race. I'm now leaning more towards a 9-lap one, and I think if you're the likes of Hefford and Gool, you would take that.
Yeah, they will be, but we've got Jamie Ayres and Dan Hunt right alongside going into turn 1. Ayres slips back in again. Hunt leads for another lap. Cullinan has just cleared Darryl Wright. Just seen the movement on the timing tower on the left-hand side through the left-hander at the southern loop. These four are not finished. This is like a prize fight. This is like two heavyweight mammoth boxers going at it, coming into round 12 and equal on points. And this is what you're going to have. These four are going to scrap this out until there's last man standing here, I can tell you that much.
Yeah, Cullenham getting through on right for 5th position on the road. He'll be wanting to get in on this battle, but he won't have long to do that. Mick Barry, Darren McLean and Steve Hampstead are the drivers out of the race so far. So Alan Toon still going in 15th position. We've just seen the leaders going through turn number 5 now, or turn number 6, however you wish to call that corner. But they are coming through the sort of almost like the infield section of the circuit now, or towards the back of the circuit that they're coming through. Dan Hunt leading and Hefford and Gull are nose to tail right now, and Gull thinking about a move but wisely backing out of it and just waiting another opportunity.
Yeah, they are. And Pete Van Gool is there. He's settled, nestled in with Steve Hefford and Ralph Cullinan. You've got Darryl Wright nestling in behind that. He's got the other arm of Charles Kellerman tucked him right behind him here. So a great job from him. And he's trying to close up on Darryl Wright for the lead of the arms. So, you know, it's important. Roger Morton has not really battled back after making a mistake early on. He's sitting down in 11th at the moment. But it's all still up here. Dan Hunt and Jamie Ayres side by side. Lap 8, there's going to be one more to go.
Yeah, so there's 2 laps to go, including this one. Ayres on the inside of Hunt into the doing corner, and that's enough for Ayres to go through into the lead for the time being at least. Hefford and Gull still remaining in 3rd and 4th positions. Wright got back in front of Cullinan, so he's got a little bit of a buffer between him and Kellerman in the fight in Am. Pete Newman is 8th behind Kellerman, so we expect him to make a move rather swiftly. But we've seen Hunt going for the lead again on Jamie Ayres as they approach turn number 4, the hairpin that is, and Hunt takes back the lead.
He has at the moment. He's for how long? That's going to be the question. How long is he going to be able to hold it for? He's got one more lap. Well, I say 1.5, give or take, because they're probably halfway round now. They're just going around Siberia in through the left-hander of turn 7 before they go through to Hayshed. The right-hander then dropping down into Lukey Heights, and that is probably where Jamie Ayres is going to look at making his move. He needs that hairpin. He needs that sudden stop, and you can see him setting up for it now.
Yeah, Wilson and Sampson have both dropped down the order. We don't know what happened to those two, whether they've just run wide together or come together. But we are looking at Ayres and Hunt as they continue to dice it out for position. And Ayres got a little bit out of shape on the exit of turn number 10, but was able to gather it all up. And Hunt is now falling back into the clutches of Hefford and Gull as they come around to begin their last up of this first race at Phillip Island.
Yeah, he is now. They're coming over the line. There's going to be Barney, the flag bearer, waving frantically here as well. The final lap of the race. Jamie Ayres, Dan Hunt are going to be looking at this side by side. You can see the DOF reality just in front of us there as well. He's going to have the inside for turn 1. Steve Hefford's got a big old march on as well. He's come from 3rd. He's trying to get all the way through down into 1st. It's going to be very, very congested here. And hopefully, Tom, they all make it through cleanly.
Yeah, you can see the squirming round a little bit, but that's because of the braking points that they're having to find. And Hunt is now into the lead once more with Ayres in P2. Hefford almost got his nose in front of those two, but is having to settle for 3rd place for the time being. Opportunities are running out for these drivers now, so if there's the time to make a move, this is it. Kellerman getting back ahead of Newman for 7th place. 2nd in class is Kellerman, having a good race so far, as Hunt continues to hold firm ahead of Ayres. But Ayres is not giving it up by any stretch of the imagination.
2 battles going on at the moment. We've got the front 4, and then we've got 5, 6, 7 and 8. They're still scrapping it out once more as they're coming around the right-hander. You can see, though, the front are not giving it up. Jamie Ayres needs that inside line for Lukey Heights. Exactly what I said he needed to do, because he won't get many other opportunities other than that.
No, definitely not. And Ayres on the inside of Hunt as they approach turn number 9. And now they're going to go into a slower right-hander of turn number 10. And Hunt has the inside line in that red and white liveried Mazda. And he's through on Ayres. But Ayres will have the inside line for the last 2 left-handers before the pit straight. Hunt still in the lead, but Ayres is not giving it up as they come around the last corner for the final time in race number 1. Ayres has his nose in front, but it's going to be a drag race to the line as we had predicted it. Az should be able to hold on, but Hunt is looking to just creep in front as they approach the line, as is Having and Gull 4 abreast over the line, and Az wins by half a tenth of a second. Steve Hefford snatching second from Dan Hunt on the line, with Pete Van Gull in 4th place, with Pete Newman 5th, and it's Charles Kellerman who has snatched 6th place. And in fact, the class win, Ralph Cullingham and Darrell Wright, I think, have come together on the last lap.
Yeah, 2 teammates. Oh dear. Oh dear, 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 boys. Oh no. Not a good
disaster for Darrell Wright. Disaster for Darrell Wright. He lost the class win by tangling with Ralph Cullingham, who was in the pro class. Well, I won't say too much about Ralph Cullingham, but that was quite inevitable given how much those two had been battling throughout that race. Jamie Az is the winner of race number 1 over Dan Hunt. Then it's Steve Hefford in 3rd place, Pete Van Gull in 4th, ahead of Pete Newman. Then it's Charles Kellerman, the winner of Am, with Ollie Ricks in 2nd in class. He'll have taken that at the start. Ralph Cullingham 8th, Roger Morton, podium finisher in Am in 9th, and it's Martin Sampson out the top 10. Jamie Wilson 11th, and we'll start on reverse grid pole for race number 2. And Nicola 12th, followed by Fiona Siddons, Darrell Wright, and Sir Alan Toon, the rest of the finishers. Mick Barry, Steve Hansford, and Darren McLean were those to not finish.
That was a very exciting race number 1. 4 abreast, almost going over the line as well. And there was not a lot between them. It looked like Dan Hunt was giving Jamie Az a little bit of a nudge just to try and slow him down a little bit. Obviously, Hunt there's got the run as well. Then you had Steve Hefford coming through, PVG trying to come through as well. Oh, it was all very exciting. But now we do it all again.
We do it all over again indeed, and we've got a little bit of time before race number 2 begins, but that was most certainly a breathtaking piece of action that we saw throughout the 15 minutes of race number 1 here at Phillip Island in Australia, home of the Australian MotoGP event. And I think we're going to be in for a little bit of a blockbuster race number 2. Can Jamie Wilson, who will be on reverse grid pole, convert that into a win, take advantage of it? He could do with something special. There was nothing special from him in that first race, so he'll want to make up for that this time around. We have, well, this is the race 1 result we're looking at again, but Jamie Wilson 11th over, well, Martin Sampson will be on the front row next to him. How do you see this one playing out?
Always
huge if, indeed.
Exactly.
We're seeing some drivers on circuit just wanting to get a little bit more practice in before the second race begins. I think Ollie Ricks is one of those who will want to just get a little bit more mileage under his belt because he was a late arrival during the qualifying session. So I think he just wants a little bit more track time before race number 2 does begin. There he is in the number 95 lime green and black liveried machine, second in class in that first race thanks to Darrell Wright's collision with Ralph Cullingham on the last lap of race number 1. Darrell Wright will be kicking himself.
I think he'll be kicking himself because it was with his teammate. You have to kick yourself if it is with your teammate. It's embarrassing, isn't it? It's embarrassing for the team. It's embarrassing for the sponsor, Result Clothing. They've got to make sure they can get that right. Both of them lost huge points out of race 1. Silly driving. Silly driving.
Yeah, and it's not surprised to see Ralph Cullingham involved in something like that. We have seen it time and time again this season. We saw it at times at Alton Park. We saw it at times, I think, at the Red Bull Ring as well. I think pretty much every round, as far as I know. Obviously, it's not every single race we've seen him do that, but he has been one of the more regular drivers to be involved in someone else's incident. That's proved to be quite a drastic change in terms of the complexion of the race itself. So Ralph Cullingham could do with a little bit. He'll want to make up for that and just have a clean race 2 for once and just get through that safe and sound.
Yeah. Now, the idea of a 4-race evening is to make sure you score points for all 4 races. How many points is really dependent on how your driving is. If you're going to put it in and do something like that, you're not going to score many points. You know, you've got to be consistent. You've got to make sure that you complete it and take as many points as you can, and clearly stay away from your teammate.
Absolutely so. And if the gap isn't there, don't go for it. And it was an ambitious overtake from Ralph Cullinan to try and get through on Darrell Wright, and it just totally backfired him on that occasion. We're approaching the final seconds of the warm-up before race number 2, and Jamie Wilson will be aiming for a strong start. But the focus, I think, is going to be on the likes of Pete Van Gool, Jamie Ayres, Dan Hunt, and Steve Hefford. How will they make their way through the field?
Fast. But the grid is up, and they do get on quite quick, dear sir. So there you go.
So Jamie Wilson on reverse group pole ahead of Martin Sampson, who is alongside, both of which in pro. Roger Morton third ahead of Ralph Cullinan. Ollie Ricks and Charles Killerman are on row 3, followed by Pete Newman and Pete Van Gool. Steve Hefford and Dan Hunt are on row 5. Then Steve Hefford and Dan... No, it is Steve Hefford and Dan Hunt. Jamie Ayres and Andy Lickler are 11th and 12th. Fiona Siddons, Del Wrights, Alan Toon, Mick Barry, Steve Hansford and Darren McLean make up the grid for the second race of this evening. The cars are very much in position. I think we're just waiting for Mick Barry and Steve Hansford to get onto the grid, but the lights are coming on now. 1 light is on, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Lights are on, lights off at Phillip Island. That was very, very quick. Jamie Wilson, how does he get on? How does he react to the lights ahead of Martin Sampson? It looks like he's got a reasonable start there. Does Jamie ahead? He's cut across on Sampson as they approach the Dewin corner, and it looks like he's pulling out quite a bit of a margin already. Dan Hunt moving in front of Steve Hefford, approaching turn number 1, but it's a clean start reasonably throughout the field, although someone's spun around and there's been a collision at the back, and it looks like Fiona Siddons has been in the wars.
Yeah, Fiona Siddons. Charles Kellerman's also in the mix as well. He's gone off the side of the circuit. Wilson holding the front end, so is Martin Sampson. Roger Morton in there. He's not going to be an easy overtake either for the likes of Ralph Cullen and Pete Newman and PVG in there as well. So there could be a lot of action here, and it could get absolutely manic, so be prepared for this one.
Yeah, don't be at all surprised, given it is a reverse grid. A lot of those out of position to where we would normally see them. But it's Wilson in the lead for now, ahead of Sampson. It's Roger Morton, the highest of all those, in AM in 3rd place. Ralph Cullen in 4th, ahead of Pete Newman. And it's Ollie Ricks, the second of all those in AM, and followed by Pete Van Gool, ahead of the quadruplet to the line in race number 1 over Hefford, Hunt and Ayres. Siddons just moving back in front of Toon for the time being, but I think Alan Toon has had a spin.
Yeah, he has, unfortunately, for Tooney. Poor old Tooney. I believe he was 70-something this year. 71? I think he's just turned 71, if I saw a birthday message correct there from Sir Alan Toon. So if that is right, Mr. Tooney, happy birthday. Yep. But yeah, Jamie Wilson still breaking it away. Roger Morton still mixing it in there. And so is Pete Newman. So could be an interesting one here.
Yeah, Ollie Ricks has dropped back. He went off halfway through that lap as well. He was running, I believe, 2nd in class, and is now down to 4th in class and 12th overall in race number 2 so far. But they are going around to complete the first lap. Wilson in the lead. We are seeing a 3-way battle, I think. What is this for? Is the crossover line? This is for P3 overall. And Ralph Cullinan has got his nose in front of Pete Newman and Roger Morton.
Yeah, Ralph come through there. Be interested to see how he does now. Obviously, he's got to hold it off. No, you've got to get it off the grass, Ralph. You've got to try and now get it stopped. It's going to be very, very tough for these guys. If you run wide there, it's not easy to stop the car, right? You know, cars don't stop on grass. Oh, Roger Morton. Hold your brakes. Oh. Just as we said, he was doing so well.
Yeah, I was fearing he wouldn't got on the brakes there. I thought he was going to reverse back into the path, which wouldn't have been very clever there from Morton, but thankfully did get the car stopped, but now he's left himself with more work to do. Jamie Wilson still leading. Ralph Cullinan still fighting it out with Pete Newman for 3rd place. It's nice to see Cullinan right in the mix, but as you've mentioned, he ran wide on the exit of turn number 1. He needs to just keep the car on the track for once, but Newman's gone round this time.
Oh, Pure Sims and Pure Sims results are going round all on their own, I believe, unless there was contact. Oh, if there was, it was very minuscule from Ralph Cullen there. Very minuscule over Pete Newman. And unfortunately, Ralph getting involved already. Siddon's just gone through. For how long, we'll find out. How long can she go through on that one? And then Jamie Wilson back up the front under pressure from Martin Sampson, Ralph Cullen and Steve Hefford. It's going to get spicy. Top 7, not very far apart.
Yep, they're all in the same class as well, are Wilson, Sampson, Cullinan, Hefford, Hunt, Gull, and as the only other pro driver in this race is Pete Newman, who's in 12th. Mick Barry hasn't taken the start, unfortunately. We don't know what's happened to him, but for whatever reason, he has not taken the start. Hopefully, maybe we can see him do a few laps before this race is over. But Sampson is about to take over the lead of the race here. Unless he's gone a little bit too deep. Does he leave Wilson enough room? He does just, and it's allowing Cullinan to get in on the out. This is Cullinan's chance to make up for lost ground after a difficult race number 1.
Yeah, he is. I think that's the thing. Ralph's got to make the opportunity, but he doesn't want to do anything silly. You know, he gets a rush, and the rush does end up making mistakes, and for him, he's got to make sure he doesn't make it. Pick his opportunity carefully here, because these guys are scrapping out. He's now side by side with Sampson. You've got Hefford and Hunt in the mix here as well, so he's got to be really, really careful. He's got cars all around him, and they're on their way out of Siberia.
Yeah, and out of Siberia they come. Wilson in the lead again over Sampson and Cullinan. But if you look at the gaps overall between the top 7, I think they're all underneath a second or something like that now. It's incredible.
Yeah, they're very, very close indeed on this one. I think we can have a look at the gap from the front to where they are. 1.1 seconds back to Jamie Ayres, and not a big gap at all.
No, and we've just seen Ralph Cullinan run wide there, and thankfully he didn't go too far out wide, but he has lost 3rd place to Dan Hunt. He's down to 5th. Is Ralph and other drivers making their way through the field. Kellerman through on Morton, albeit briefly. Morton's got back through, so from being 1st and 2nd in class, not 1st and 2nd, they're fighting for 13th and 14th on the track, and that will be 6th in class between those two. Lap number 4 begins with Wilson and Sampson. I think we're going to see another switcheroo here. Sampson on the inside this time. Hopefully he'll get the car slowed down and take the high ground on the exit, which he does so. Wilson tucking in behind, both of them running wide. Ooh. And Dan Hunt will see an opportunity. Wilson thought about going for the inside, but that move is backfired. He goes off.
Yeah, Jamie Wilson there off the side of the circuit. He had 2 bites between him and Martin Sampson. Sampson was almost an apple, and Wilson took 1 bite at him, then had another one when Sampson made a little bit of a mistake, and then after that Wilson just had nowhere to go, carried too much speed and ended up going off the side of the circuit. Dan Hunt now picks up the mantle with Martin Sampson in behind that. Steve Hefford, PVG and Ayres, so the Momo boys back together. Wilson, and now we've got Darrell Wright who's joined the party, so we've now got an 8-car fight at the front of the order, and it's 2.3 seconds from 1st to 8th, so battle's still not done, and Dan Hunt leading the way.
Yeah, he's having the time of it. He's Dan Hunt making his way through the field very, very nicely indeed. Sampson in 2nd place, so Ralph Cullinan somehow has managed to get back into 3rd place, and fancying a go of it on Sampson to get into P2. Pete Van Gull running in 4th, and it's Jamie Ayres still behind them. We've got Steve Hefford and Jamie Wilson running out the top 7 of those in pro, and it looks like Ayres has made a mistake. He has done.
Yeah, Jamie Ayres, unfortunately, there just gone off the side of the circuit. We'll have a look back and see what he got himself up to here. This is coming down into the hairpin. Was there contact, or is this going to be applying?
It's a slight nudge, I think, from Steve Hefford, but it was very accidental.
Yeah, very, very slight touch there, but it's the release. Dan Hunt and Martin Sampson out in front, coming through Duon corner, down into the Southern Loop once more.
Yeah, Hunt continuing to lead the way still. Sampson not giving up by any means. It's good to see that he's in the fight here. Is Martin Sampson. Steve Hefford moving in front of Jamie Wilson into 5th place. Cullinan's dropped behind Pete Van Gull in the battle for P3. They are beginning to stretch out a little bit. Are the front of the pack. Darrell Wright keeping himself firm. He's over 5 seconds clear over Ollie Riggs, so you could say it's a bit of a done deal at the moment for Darrell Wright, but it just depends on how much he gets held up by the pro drivers and giving Ollie Riggs a chance to close in, but it's looking rather unlikely that Ricks is going to come out on top in this one.
Oh, he's got 5 seconds, right? He's only got to stay with the guys in front of him. He hasn't even got to overtake them if he really doesn't want to. They're very, very quick. You know, Dan last time out 46.11. Then you got Daryl Wright here is doing a 46.47. So, you know, he should be safe. But you got Darren McLean, Jamie Ayres battling it out further down the order. Roger Morton leading the charge with Charles Kellerman and Fiona Siddons tucked in behind that as well. And they're going to try and want to make their way forward. Morton's not had the best of 2 rounds already, 2 races, 2 spins, unfortunately for Roger Morton. So it's a tough one for him. He's got to try and recover coming out of round 3 and 4, of course, which he will do after the break. But Steve Hefford here with Jamie Wilson tucked in right behind him at the moment as Dan Hunt's in the lead of the race.
Ollie Ricks is the next driver to go for a spin. I don't know what's happened, but he's had another dreadful moment and he's dropped down the orders behind Pete Newman. I think Ollie Ricks has probably been in the wall somewhere. We'll find a replay soon enough. Wilson tucking in behind Hefford as they approach turn number 1 once more. Not going for it just yet.
I am surprised by that. He was literally bump drafting Steve Hefford down the racetrack. Literally bump drafted him down the racetrack. I am surprised he did not go up the inside. But unless he's saving it for the final lap or the one before that.
We'll wait and see. And because of Ricks's moment, Darren McLean's now up to 3rd place in AM, on course for a podium finish in that class. And Dan Hunt is still holding firm ahead of Sanson. It's Fengel 3rd, and it's Colin having a decent race in 4th, and it's Hefford and Wilson. Dale Wright not too far back from this bunch. He'll just want to settle in behind and not go for it too much. He's got a margin of over 8 seconds now, James.
Yeah, he's not going to lose the AM lead. If he's sensible, he doesn't even have to battle. If they make a mistake and if they go off, go for your life. I wouldn't rush. No point. You'll lose the lead of the AMs literally if you go and fight with these guys. You're better off just letting them get on with it. As we've seen, they have been prone to taking each other out and making contact with each other. As you can see, Steve Hefford in the background just diving up the inside of the Irishman. Ralph there. Ralph's going to have the inside again for the left-hander coming through turn 11, and he will run that inside line all the way down as well. It depends on what Wilson's going to do here. Is he going to pick his horse and push Steve Hefford? Is he going to pick the horse on the inside and push Ralph Cullinan? And at the moment, he's not doing either.
Now, Jamie Wilson, who was on reverse grid pole at the beginning of this one, is trying to make his way back through the field. He's got through on Cullinan for now. He's making the most of the draft on Hefford in front. Is he making enough time to even think about going for an overtake into turn number 1? He's thinking about it, but Hefford just about shuts the door, and Wilson decides to maybe make a lunge into turn number 2. He's too far back to do it, but Hefford is trying to make a move of his own, gets a little bit out of shape, and that has allowed Wilson to get a little bit of encouragement behind, and maybe turn number 4 is his best shot.
Yeah, it's just not being... Okay, so let's put that in perspective, okay? If you go into a prize boxing match and the guy's standing there with his hands down, his head down, and he looks like he don't really want to be there, he ain't going to want to fight you. But if you're going in and the guy's, shadow boxing around the ring and he's got his gum shield in and he's going, ooh, rah, then he wants to fight. And at the moment, Jamie Wilson seems to be the guy with his hands down, stood there with his head down. He's not really showing much aggression in that car to make the overtake, and he's been in prime positions a good few times as Mr. Wilson, so I'm hoping he isn't going to miss the opportunity because he hasn't taken them opportunities, and he's going to end up losing a place to Ralph Cullinan, because you need to be that aggressive young man, and Wilson's been in a position, but he just hasn't quite made it, and that's the thing. I'm hoping he doesn't regret it, and I'm hoping he can make his way forward.
Well, he's got a couple of more laps to make his pounce, does Wilson. And he will be watching what happens involving Hunt, Sampson, Gold and Hefford. It's inevitable that we are seeing this kind of battle once more. We saw it in race number 1, and it wouldn't be at all surprising to see it happen again in race 2. But we are beginning the penultimate lap of this race. It will be a 9-lap race again. And Hunt holding his lead, but not for long because Martin Sampson is making his way through, as is Pete Van Gogh. Will Gould take advantage maybe of an open door? He can't quite do so. Dan Hunt is still there in second place, but it's Sampson who takes over leadership.
Yeah, he takes over the lead there. Martin Sampson, he got the run. The question is how's he going to handle it for the next lap? Because it's going to come back again. That's the problem. Everything you do does come back tenfold. You can see Dan Hunt's got that outside line round turn 2 sorted out. That will give him the inside for Honda, which he will have now. Through the kink of the left-hander, give him the insider for Honda. There you go. Job done for Dan Hunt. He retakes that position, and I don't expect Martin Sampson to be able to come back and redo it. He hasn't. And these 8, again, not very far apart at all as we're coming into what will be, this is the penultimate lap. There's going to be one more after this. I'm hoping Jamie Wilson is not going to regret the action that he didn't take the overtake on Steve Evans when he had the opportunity, but we'll see what happens as we've got one more lap to go after this.
He's probably waiting for a draft as they do that drag race over the line again, but Wilson needs to be closer than where he is at the moment, behind the quadruplet ahead of him, and Simpson is under threat from Steve Hefford as they approach turn number 10 of this racetrack. Saw a little bit of a bump there. Did you see that?
Yeah, Steve Hefford and Martin Sampson had a little bit of a ta-ta-ta with each other. Now Wilson's going to try and get the run around the outside. He's got to look because Hefford will not give him the draft. If anybody, Hefford will keep wide and give it to Pete Van Gogh to pull him forward. That's how they work. They are a unit. They are your cracked driving squad. And there you go. He moves over and gives it straight away to PVG. He does not want Jamie Wilson to have that draft any more than Wilson wants Ralph Cullinan to have it. So you can see what Steve Hefford's done. He's gone to the side of the track, giving it to Pete Van Gogh, and he was going to do that all day, and now he's got one more lap.
Yeah, and there was clever driving there from Steve Hefford, playing his part in helping Pete Van Gogh to maintain 4th position over Wilson and Cullinan. We are on the final lap of the race, and it's Dan Hunt who still leads, but Sampson is not giving it up by any means. This is his chance to stamp his claim as to why he belongs in this UK SimRacers Championship. He's not there to make up the numbers by any means or just score points. He wants to win. He wants to win out overall, whether it be in Pro or Am. He wants to win the overall thing. And he's now behind Hunt as they begin the last, well, they're already on the last lap, but they're halfway through that now. And Sampson will be thinking maybe that drag race to the line.
He might have a go, but it's risky. It's a risky move, Tom. It's all or nothing, isn't it? You're relying on getting a run out of the hairpin ready for him. I don't know. I don't know if I would have left it this late.
Well, Sampson is still right in the draft of Hunt. He's gone a little bit too far out wide, maybe. He won't go for it into turn 10 because he's too far back. We're just looking to see if Jamie Wilson can make a move further back in the fight, maybe for the last podium place. It looks like Hefford has that underneath him, but this is the battle for the win now. Is Sampson going to snatch victory away from Dan Hunt as they approach the line? We've got one more corner to get through. The left sweeping hander before the pit straight. Who's going to win out? Will it be Dan Hunt or Martin Sampson? Sampson going to the outside on the grass. It looks like he's going to snatch it away from Hunt. Hunt does his best, but Sampson is going to snatch it away from Hunt. He wins the second race ahead of his rival. It's Steve Hefford and Pete Van Gogh, Jamie Wilson, Ralph Cullinan and Del Wright, who is the winner of Am. But take your hats off to Martin Sampson for keeping himself in there all the way to the end. And he got his reward in the end, James.
Oh, he did, but Dan Hunt made it as hard as possible. Watch the run. Watch what Hunt does. He tries. He leaves the door open, and then he tries to cover him off. Look, he starts coming over. Sampson's now on the grass. He's got 2 wheels on the grass. He keeps his foot in, then a little bit of nudging and argy-bargy on the way down. Oh, Sampson, you brave boy. Brave boy.
I thought it was a little bit naughty from Dan Hunt, the way he moved him onto the grass there. That could have been rather disastrous, but thankfully Sampson kept his foot in there and won out in the end over Hunt. Hefford taking a podium finish, and Darrell Wright wins out in the end in Am over Andy Lickler, who was over 14 seconds behind Wright at the checkered. Roger Morton bagging a podium finish after a rocky race again.
Unfortunately for Roger Morton, not been ideal. Good old Sir Alan Toon comes over the line. We'll bring you up the results, and then we're going to go for a break.
So Martin Sampson wins ahead of Dan Hunt. It's Steve Hefford in third, Pete Van Gogh 4th. Once more, they had Jamie Wilson after being on reverse grid pole. Ralph Cunningham 6th. Daryl Wright winning in AM in 7th place, and it's Jamie Ayres who is 8th after his spin. Andy Little at 9th, and Roger Morton ran out the podium finishes in AM. Charles Cullinan 11th, followed by Darren McLean. Then it's Pete Newman, the last of those in Pro. Fiona Siddons, Ollie Riggs, Steve Hunsford, and Sir Alan Toon were the rest of those to finish. Mick Barry didn't even take the starts. 2 races down, 2 races to go. We'll be back after this break. Don't leave us. Welcome back to the UK SimRacers MX5 series, the summer season round 5 at Phillip Island. We've had 2 races so far, 2 more to come for you. Round 3 is a randomised grid throughout the field. We don't know who will be on pole just yet. And race 4 will be the reverse top 8 of the race 3 results. James, we've had 2 brilliant races so far, and I would expect to see more of that to come in the next couple.
Yeah, you've had four over the line together within race 1. You've had Martin Sampson taking a win in race number 2 as well. PVG in YouTube chat. Nice one, Martin. He's put there as well. Well, he put N1, but I'm guessing that means nice. As he goes and takes the victory. So, yeah, great racing so far. That run out of that final hairpin, out of the MG hairpin, all the way around 11 and 12 is really bringing some great action. So I'm going to look for that, and hopefully that will continue as we go into the third race of the evening. You say complete random grid. It could be anybody on pole position, which is exciting for them.
Yeah, we've seen some drivers on the circuit at the moment. I saw Roger Morton whilst we were on a break. He's determined to get some more track time. He's not really satisfied, I would have thought, with what he has done this evening so far, and I don't think he would have practiced trying to do a spin like that on the cross by any means. But yeah, at least he knows not to do that next time when he goes on circuit for the more serious situation like racing, for instance. Yeah, he just tries to go through in the pit lane. Yeah, I think that's just a little bit of fun and games there for him.
Yeah, I think so. They are utilising practice for that reason, but I think he's had a rough one as Roger Morton. He's got to kind of, get it together, almost. So there you go. Would have popped in, but needed a wee, says Martin Sampson. Thank you very much, Martin. Do you really want to come and talk to us, mate? After all of the interview dramas we've had, do you really want to? Probably not. So, you know what I mean? Probably best stay there, Martin. We don't want to give you a voodoo for race number 3. As Roger Morton is either trying to slide the car there, or he's trying to do something amazing with it that clearly is not working out.
Yeah, he's had a rocky couple of races, hasn't he? I keep using the word rocky so much, but that is a pretty much a good summation of how his evening has gone. He's been involved in a few spins as well, which has cost him points. He just needs a clean race out of it, doesn't he? He'll ideally want to get a win. I'm sure he picked up a win at least last week at the Red Bull Ring. He'll want to replicate that here. But in regards to his challenge with Ollie Ricks in the title battle, Ollie Ricks has had his problems as well. And Roger Morton isn't quite taking advantage of that. And in situations like this, your rival isn't going to make much mistakes. Or many mistakes, sorry, that was the wrong word. But this is where Roger Morton's got to take advantage. And I don't want to say he's bottling it by any means, but he's making mistakes of his own. He's not minimising that. No,
that's exactly what we said at the beginning. He is, in a way, as you say, he is bottling it because he's not utilising the fact that Ollie Ricks is having issues around him. He could have got a great haul of points if he just literally kept it on track for the first 2 races.
Randomised grid then. Pete Vengel on pole ahead of Fiona Siddons. It's Roger Morton and Steve Hansford alongside Dan Hunt in 5th ahead of Charles Kellyman. Andy Littler and Pete Newman on next, followed by Steve Hefford and Jamie Wilson. And we've got Jamie Ayres and Ralph Cullen on the 6th row in 11th and 12th. Darren McLean 13th ahead of Ollie Riggs, and it's Sir Alan Toon and Darrell Wright. Martin Sampson is the last of those of the 17. It looks like Mick Barry is not taking the start for this one. The 5 red lights are coming on now. We've got 1 light, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Lights are on. Lights off at Phillip Island for race number 3. Pete Vengel should make a really good start of it. It looks like he's actually gone there for a moment, but he is still in the lead. Fiona Siddons, how does she get on ahead of Roger Morton and Steve Hansford as they approach turn number 1? Bill getting a mesmerising start so far. He should be taking advantage of this before his rivals close in later on in the event. But we've got Roger Morton trying to make a move of his own to try and get an AM win from tonight. And he's tucked in behind Siddons there. It looks like a few drivers are dropping down the order a little bit, but nothing too drastic. Although Steve Hansford, who was towards the top end, has had a moment. And there he is, look.
Dan Martin Sampson, pair of them together. He didn't even come in for an interview, and it all went wrong in race 3 for Martin Sampson. But Fiona Siddons, Roger Morton side by side for the first time going round Honda. A little bit of argy-bargy. Morton does get his way through. PVG doesn't make that an ideal corner. He's kind of made a hash of MG, to be fair, as he's now coming round Siberia, and this is going to put him under attack from Morton as they go round down into MG hairpin.
Yeah, I would have expected Gould to pull away from this lot, in all honesty, but Morton is right on his tail, and he fancies a go on it on Gould. Does he go for it now, or is it not worth it at this stage? I can say that Gould's running wide, and that should give Morton the high ground to perhaps move in front at this stage.
On the way down into MG, he's got to drop down there. Dan Hunt's trying to utilise that outside line. He's going to keep his foot in as well. Is Dan Hunt round the left-hander of turn 11, and this is where the run's going to take place. I can guarantee you Hunt's going to settle in behind PVG. I'll be very surprised if PVG gives the draft almost to Roger Morton. They're not on the same team. Is now who's going to be able to get it as they go round the final corner.
Yeah, approaching the end of lap number 1. In the background, approaching turn number 10, Pete Newman went a long way off the racetrack, but he was able to continue, but he is not having a good evening so far. Meanwhile, Dan Hunt, who's made a brilliant start to this one, round the outside into turn number 1. Does he take the lead from Pete Van Gogh? It looks like he's doing so, although Gogh is still there on the inside, but Hunt has his customary position, and he takes the lead at the beginning of the second lap.
Yeah, Dan Hunt breaks out in front again with PVG tucked in right behind him this time. Roger Morton in there, Fiona Siddons, they're battling it out for the lead, as you see them two at the top of the timing tower. Callum's in there. You've got first, second, third, fourth, fifth, all going side by side. Steve Heaven's in there as well. 3 wide going around the kink. How's this going to work out? Going down into Honda at the moment. Siddons is still holding on. Great job from Fiona Siddons. Forces Jamie Ayres out wide. Jamie Ayres is off the side of the circuit. Ollie Ricks is off the side of the circuit as well. Darryl Wright says, thank you very much. I'll have some of that.
Well, Fiona Siddons, well, I can't really blame her for her defensive driving. Jamie Ayres won't like that one bit, but it is racing sometimes, and I think Ayres just needs to sort of settle down and just get on with it. Siddons in second place in class, doing a cracking job after starting on the front row of the grid thanks to the randomised grid, but Morton is into the lead of the AM, and Hunt is leading in pro.
Yeah, you can see Dan Hunt out in front at the moment. He has got PVG tucked in behind him. Morton's trying to utilise his spell. Gee whiz, Fiona Siddons. That was almost pinball. It was like a striking bowling there at one point.
It sounded like your chair had fallen over whilst we were watching that.
I thought she was going to come in like an absolute bat of hell.
Fiona Siddons thankfully was able to get the car slowed down in turn number 10 and is able to keep her nose on the circuit, and remarkably she's still second in class, although I think Charles Kellerman is going to displace her by passing on the inside into turn number 1, whilst we see Steve Heaven make a move of his own on Ralph Cullingham. Cullingham had a better time of it in race 2, but can he keep it that way in race number 3? Side by side they go through turns 1 and 2. Hefford has his nose in front, but Cullingham will have the high ground entering the fast sweeping left-hander. The long hairpin it is before they approach turn number 3, and Hefford still has his nose stuck in there side by side with Cullingham, and it should be Hefford who will have the inside line into the hairpin as they are coming up to it.
Yeah, they should have the inside. It depends how brave Ralph Cullinham's going to be. We've lost Fiona Siddons. We have lost Fiona Siddons. She has gone off into the shadow realm, and unfortunately for Siddons, it is a good night, Vienna. Was there contact? Oh, there was. Jamie has contact on the back end of Fiona Siddons, and unfortunately for her, she's around, she's gone. But Steve Everett, Ralph Cullinan not giving up on each other at the moment. Neither is Ollie Ricks, Darryl Wright, Pete Newman, Jamie Wilson, Charles Kellerman. They're all fighting it out once again. Dan Hunt still fighting it out with PVG. There's a lot of battles taking place on this race circuit at the moment, and there's a lot to get finished, and I don't think this race is finished by any form of the imagination.
Well, I think there's going to be a few words between Fiona Siddons and Jamie Ayres afterwards. They've sort of clashed twice in this race already, so there may be a word or two after this race is over. Dan Hunt leading still over Pete Van Gogh as they are approaching the end of lap number 3. Roger Morton still ahead of Hefford and Cullinan, hugging in behind. Jamie Ayres getting back into the action towards the front once more. Jamie Wilson not too far off either. We are seeing a side-by-side, like a drag race to the line. We are riding a wall with Ralph Cullinan. Bump drafting Steve Hefford. I'm surprised he's not decided to go for it into turn 1. We've seen Jamie Wilson do that with Hefford in the last race and not are not actually going for it.
Yeah, he didn't benefit from it at all. The one thing we said, and he didn't benefit from it at all. He's now going up the inside of Charles Kellerman. Kellerman's on our was on our outside there. I'm not entirely sure where he's gone at that point, but Charles Kellerman is there, just now slots in behind Wilson. And that's the thing. He who hesitates loses out, and it looks like, unfortunately, when they get to Steve Hefford, nobody wants to have a go at him. Just go. You're there. You don't need to bump him. It's not going to help. Just go for it and see where you come out in it. But unfortunately for Ralph, he's now got Jamie Ayres behind him.
Yeah, Gull certainly was going for it into turn number 4, but Hunt has got the inside line into Siberia and keeps his nose ahead of his rival. They are on the same team, these two, so they don't want to bang wheels too much. As we've got Roger Morton, who's holding firm in 3rd place. Steve Hefford is not too far back, so we've got 3 Momo drivers in the top 4 placings as we speak, and we are seeing other battles going on. Ralph Cullen just holding off Jamie Ayres at the moment. Ayres determined to make his way through the field after running wide in his attempt to get past Fiona Siddons, who was able to continue after the spin she had off following the collision on the exit of turn number 2 with him. We're looking at Charles Kellerman, who's behind our right.
Yeah, tucked in once again here. I want to pick up on the front. I want to see what they're going to do this time around. Is Cullinan, he's not in there. Morton's following. PBG's trying to go at the inside of Dan Hunt. Yes, respectively, they have been in the same chat room and they are friends, and they have been friends for as long as I can remember, but they're kind of not on the same team, but they will work together if they need to. But I can guarantee Dan Hunt is not thinking about that. Neither is Roger Morton, neither is Steve Everett, and neither is Ralph Cullinan. They all want to take the win here, and they're all going to keep fighting with each other as they're on that run around Stoner Corner down into Honda Hairpin, and we'll see how this one pans out. You can see PVG's got up the inside again. Dan Hunt running a little bit wide coming out of Southern Loop out of turn 2, and now PVG has taken up the mantle once more, and Steve Hefford has just cleared Roger Morton.
Yeah, Hefford on the inside of Morton into the 4th corner of the circuit. He's doing to 3rd place on the road. Now he can focus his attention on Dan Hunt and Pete Van Gaal in front. Ralph Cullinan 4th in class at the moment, ahead of Jamie Ayres, Pete Newman and Jamie Wilson. It's a brilliant fight between those 4. Hopefully it'll come off clean once this race is done. There's a high chance that it won't happen though, because I think there's going to be a few elbows been getting out.
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening, Craig Jones as well. Answering back to Martin Sampson's about that he needed a wee. I've got to get a wireless headset. You can go for a wee and do an interview. Well, I'd rather you didn't, but thank you very much for that. As Jamie Ayres has just gone round.
Jamie Ayres has gone, yeah.
And was that on his own?
He lost it on his own, I think, although we'll have a look to see. Does he? Oh. No, it was contact. Contact initially with Ralph Cullinan. Now, could you argue, did Cullinan leave him enough room, or did Jamie Ayres just maybe not perhaps foresee that Cullinan was going to turn in?
I don't know. Again, the slightest touches on Ralph. That's not the first time, is it? Let's be real about it. As these guys are continuing to fight, they're going 3 wide now as well, down into turn 1. 3 wide. Roger Morton in there, Pete Newman in there, Ralph Cullinan in there. They're picking up drafts all over the place. Everybody's on the brakes. They're trying to make sure they can get through cleanly. Hunt's on the left-hand side. Hefford's in there. PVG's in there. He's blocked off Ralph Cullinan. Poor old Roger Morton was at 3rd of the group. He's now gone to the back of the group. So that didn't work out for Roger Morton, but he has unfortunately lost a position to Ralph Cullinan and Pete Newman.
Yeah, Pete Newman getting through, but they are in different classes to each other, those two. Newman on the inside of Cullinan, a little bit of contact, but nothing too much. Hefford into the lead for the time being as a result of that drag race into turn 1 on this lap. But we're looking at Gull, who's getting through, or almost trying to get through on Dan Hunt. Backfiring a little bit. That opens the door for Cullinan to get alongside, but they've got a right-hander coming up. There's a little bit of a battle going on. I think Ayres is off the track again.
Yeah, Jamie Ayres looks like he's having a bit of a rough one here as well. Unfortunately for Mr. Ayres, he has recovered. He's recovered right in front of Andy Littler, Darren McLean and Ollie Ricks as these guys are fighting out down in the arms. Littler and McLean side by side at the moment. They're continuing to scrap it out as well. Andy Littler part of the work guard. Darren McLean, the privateer on the circuit in his customary red and white. Returning, doing an absolutely stellar job. He's just gone past Andy Littler, takes 4th in class. Pete Newman, Ralph Cullinan, they're all still continuing to fight and they're all still continuing to battle. Jamie Wilson's now in there. Let's hope he utilises this move a little bit more than he did in race 2.
Cullinan ruthlessly making his way through past Pete Van Gogh into third position. Are we going to get a repeat of the drag race on the pit straight like I've seen time and time again from this group? Hefford over the line, but for how long will he remain in the top spot? We've got Dan Hunt who goes for it on the inside. He feels it's worth going for. Cullinan making the most of the job. He's not able to get through into second place just yet. Hefford will have the inside line for the next corner that is coming up. And he stays in P2. You can just see Pete Van Gogh. There's a tangle there between him and Pete Newman. They're both off.
Oh, that was so hard. That was literally with everybody checking up in and around him. Dan Hunt was doing it. Hefford was checking in. Cullen and Morton. They all carried too much speed. Everybody was checking up. And unfortunately, them two were at the end of that and just unfortunately copped it there as well. But when you get a group of 8 that were all checking up roughly in front of you as well, looked like they'd all run too deep into the corner. It was a tough one for anyone to come out of that one as well. That wasn't even classed as a touch in this league. Well, it was, Craig Jones. So behave yourself.
Yeah. Dan Hunt remaining in the lead still. Steve Hefford and Ralph Cullinan occupying the podium places as a consequence of Gull and Newman's tangle. Roger Morton 4th and still the leader of the AM class. Next driver in the category behind him is Darrell Wright. He's in 6th. 4 seconds is the margin between those two. As we look, you can see the Pro and AM timing towers now to tell you where the drivers are in their respective classes. But Dan Hunt leading still and looking good for another win, but it's not over yet.
No, it's not. And this is why. This long run coming out of 11, round 12, it's always been the customary catch-up point, and you're going to see it again. PVG's going to slot in behind him. Ralph Cullinan's going to come like an absolute rate of knots, and here he comes now. Look at the speed he is carrying. The Irishman now, I don't think he's going to be silly enough to send it free wide, but it pulls him straight back into contention as we're going to have one more.
Yeah, this is Cullinan's chance to just snatch a win. What a great way it would be to perhaps kick-start his season, in all honesty. I don't think we've seen Ralph Cullinan on the top step in the summer campaign of the UK SimRacers Championship in 2024, but this is his golden opportunity here. But he's got Hunt and Hefford in the way. 2 laps to go. No need to rush things.
No. Definitely not. Utilise that long run. Utilise it right at the beginning. Hunt's alongside Steve Hefford. They're going into the right-hander. Hunt's still going to have to take. He's still going to take the lead. Hefford's still in there. Cullinan's still in there. Morton, Wilson's still in there as well. So they've got another lap. They've got this one and one more to go before the end of the race. How is this one going to pan out? Who's going to be close enough on the final lap coming out of that MG hairpin to get the run through turn 11 down to the line? It's all going to unravel. It's like a story, and right about now you're coming towards the end of this chapter.
Absolutely. Roger Morton holding ahead of Jamie Wilson. He won't want to fight it out with Wilson. Wilson looking good for 4th place in class. Pete Newman 5th in class, and Van Gogh, as a consequence of his collision with him, is 7th in class. The drivers in the podium places in AM, they are Morton, Wright and Kellyman, who's looking good for another good result in that respect. 1 lap to go now. Are we going to see another drag race?
Yes. I don't know what else you want me to say. You are literally going to see it down to the line. You can see how close they are already. Look at the closing speed of the 3 behind. Wilson, Morton, Cullinan, Hunt, they're all going to close up. Look at them now. They're literally, you could blanket the 5 of them and you would still hit every single car. You can see Morton's getting a little bit argy-bargy with Ralph Cullinan. Cullinan, Morton's trying to go around the outside. That's a big ask. He's got to hold that MX5 for dear life. Oh, jeez, he whizzed Batman. Morton nearly lost his rear end to Jamie Wilson's front end.
That was very close to ending in tears there between Morton and Wilson. But thankfully they keep going. But you can see Cullinan going to the inside here on Steve Hefford into turn number 4. Does he go for it? He doesn't. But Hefford's got him way too deep, but he goes off the circuit. And that hands 2nd place to the Irishman.
Oh, Ralph's now got his opportunity. Can he take a win? Can he get his first win? He's got to close up. He's got 6 attempts to get hold of Dan Hunt at the moment. He's got to utilise every little bit of racetrack now. He's got to utilise every little bit. He's got to try and sit in behind him. Get the 6 attempts. Get it down. He's got to be about half a second out coming down into that MG. Otherwise, he's really going to struggle to pull Dan Hunt in going into MG now as well. Here we go. The right-hander. Cullinan's got to absolutely bury this. He did, but how far back is he? 6 attempts. I don't know if he's going to get it here, Tom.
No, I think he's too far back to do it. Even if he did get a draft, he would need to be within at least 3 tenths. So at the moment, he's only 6 tenths behind. He's closing a little bit, but Hunt should be able to hold on for another win here. He's going to come out on top in race number 3 here at Phillip Island, ahead of the Irishman Ralph Cullinan, who's had a brilliant race up to 2nd place. Jamie Wilson, the last of those on the podium. Roger Morton wins in the AM class, well deserved for him. Steve Hefford 4th in the Pro. Darrell Wright holds off Charles Kellerman, and Pete Newman has found himself in the wars once more as they cross over the line.
Yeah, I'm not sure why he lost 3 places right at the end there. He was ahead of this group, was Pete Newman, and then he just slows down and allows them all to go through. Very strange.
Very strange indeed, but the race is over, although we are waiting for a couple more drivers to cross over the line. Steve Hunsford has had a race to forget, as has Sir Alan Toon, although Sir Alan Toon will be happy to just make it to the end of the race and just bag some points.
Yeah,
we'll run down.
Tooney will be happy regardless. He just loves being out on a racetrack. Absolutely loves it.
You can't really blame him by any means. It is racing after all, and we're all here to enjoy things. The result of race number 3 is on our screen now. Dan Hunt wins again ahead of Ralph Cunningham in 2nd place, and it's Jamie Wilson in 3rd ahead of Roger Morton. Then it's Steve Hefford and Darrell Wright next behind, ahead of Charles Kellyman, who rounds at the podium out of all those in AM. Jamie Ayres in 8th and 5th in class. Pete Van Gogh in 9th, and Pete Newman in 10th. Darren McLean in 11th, followed by Andy Lickler, Ollie Ricks, Martin Simpson, Fiona Siddons, Steve Hansford, and Sir Alan Toon with the rest of the finishers. All the starters making it to the end. Jamie Ayres is on reverse grid pole for race number 4, with Charles Kellerman on the front row next to him.
Yeah, it could be interesting. Give Jamie Ayres an opportunity to try and make up for what has been somewhat of a bit of a rough night, but we are into the rain-soaked race 4. That's a different perspective, different kettle of fish now. They've got spray, they've got puddles. Oh, they've got it all. Who knows?
Yeah. We've seen it historically. Each round we've gone to, James, we have had a wet race. For at least one of the races. We've seen it in Sebring, we've seen it at Watkins Glen, we saw it in race number 3 at Alton Park, and we saw it in race number 4, I believe, at the Red Bull Ring. The Red Bull Ring in particular, how much of a spice did it throw up for the drivers at the Red Bull Ring? Because it felt like more of a challenge that we saw there than we saw at the other venues.
Yeah, I don't even know why. I'm wondering if it's because the draft played a massive part of the Red Bull Ring. You know, you had 3 draft straights, didn't you? And I'm wondering whether or not that played a part to it. I don't really know how it all sort of really came as much at loggerheads as it did. There was a lot of puddles, there was a lot of aquaplaning, there was a lot of keep off the curbs. So, you know, there was a lot going on in the Red Bull Ring, and well, the racing's been epic here so far, and I've got a funny feeling race 4 could well be the same thing.
Yeah, I can imagine so. With not too many poles at the moment, spray is being kicked up. I wonder though, is the rain still going to continue to relent? Or, well, is it relentless? Is the rain going to be relentless?
I think so.
Word for it. Yeah. Is it going to remain, or is the rain, perhaps the precipitation of it, going to be reduced and the track continuing to dry and more grip is going to be found? Or is it just going to be a huge downpour and the drivers are expected to just find whatever grip they can find?
That one. That last one. I don't think it's never ever in all of the races that have been rain has it ever stopped. If anything, there's some that have got worse. So I think it's going to be that one. They're going to have to try and root out where the grip is. You can see the puddles materialising on the inside there as well. There's going to be a lot of standing water. The undulation of this racetrack will end up giving you a big depth puddle because, you know, if you're kicking it up, you're going uphill first before into Lucky Heights, or Lukey Heights, sorry, and then you're going down into MG. So you've got an up and down. And when water runs downhill, it will sit at the base of the hill. So that puddle in MG could be quite horrendous for them, so they are going to have to be a little bit careful because you're not going to stop if you're in the rain and you hit a big puddle.
No, definitely not. You can just see more and more drivers on the circuit, not all of them, but some of them are making the most of the conditions, just finding wherever the grip might be. But will the track be the same as what it is when the race gets underway? Because I can imagine when we move from the warm-up to the race start, it's going to be very much in limbo, isn't it? You just don't really know. Oh, and you see a car going upside down there. Who's that? That's just gone over there.
Roger Morton. I just don't know how he ended up there. There is
a bank in on that corner, so that's probably the reason why he's gone over like that.
Oh, and then straight into the grass verge that's there as well, unfortunately for Roger Morton. But yeah, minute to go. We'll have to see how it all pans out here. I think this is going to be a tough one. I think the undulation, the standing water, the puddles, it's all going to kick in here.
Yeah, and it could throw up a spice as well for the drivers. It is the reverse grid of the top 8 from the result of race number 3. Jamie Ayres will be on pole position and Charles Kellerman will be alongside. I think Jamie Ayres could really do with a good result here. He's yet to win a race this evening so far. He'll want to end that way. He did pick up a win last week in the Red Bull Ring. I think he'll be very, very disappointed if he doesn't come away with a victory here tonight.
Yeah, I think he will. And I think for Ayres, he got obviously a victory. I believe he got the victory in race 1 as they went 4 wide down to the line. But he's going to want to race 2 and race 3 for him were probably races that he didn't really want to try and remember. And I think for Jamie Ayres, he's just got to make sure he can complete race 4 and get as high as he can. And if he's on that front, he's going to be the man benefiting without the spray. So he needs to make sure he can get there, stay out in front, because the last thing he doesn't want to do is have cars in front of him, because he ain't going to be able to see a lot.
Most certainly not. We've got a grid ready now, I think, for race number 4, James. Do we have a grid ready for the 4th race this evening?
There you go.
Excellent. So Jamie Ayres on pole with reverse grid pole. Charles Kellerman alongside. It's Darrell Wright, Steve Hefford next. Roger Morton and Jamie Wilson on the 3rd row ahead of Ralph Cunningham and Dan Hunt. Pete Vengel and Pete Newman are on row number 5 ahead of Darren McLean and Andy Lickler. Ollie Riggs, Martin Sampson, Fiona Siddons, Steve Hansford and Sir Alan Toon make up the grid. We are ready to go for the last time here at Phillip Island. Do not go anywhere. We are in for a breathtaking race here in Australia. How will Ayres get on? He should be able to pull away from the likes of Kellerman, Wright and co. 1 light is on now. 2, 3, 4 and 5. The lights are on. Lights off at Phillip Island. Ayres gently moving off the line. Fine there. How does Kellerman get on? He's got on okay. The first phase to the start he's managed to nail. Wright's got a little bit, not bogged down, but his reaction may not have been as good as what Steve Hefford has been, and he's able to move in front into turn number 1.
Yeah, you can see them all gingerly tiptoeing round turn 1, and everybody's going to be in the same boat. You can see the bottlenecking too, as they're all sort of not really wanting to apply the gas pedal almost. But Jamie Ayres did what he had to do. The Welshman out in front by nearly a second. Steve Hefford, Charles Kellerman gingerly going around with Jamie Wilson as well. So there's a lot been going on here as we go on board. Get off that. That's all puddles down that left-hand side, Mr. Wilson, coming into that Honda corner. Is he got anybody alongside? And we're going to see a car dive? No, we're not, because Ralph Cullinan didn't make the move either. So yeah, everybody off. Just as I say that, PVG's gone off.
Yeah, Gould off the circuit there. Has he tangled with someone? It looks like he's stopped and his race is over. Yeah,
it looks like he's just ran wide. I think that's the problem. He looked like I don't know if there was a little touch on the outside or he's locked. Oh, Dan Hunt, where are you? Oh, there was. There was a touch on one of the Pure Sims boys, and unfortunately for PVG, it looks like his car is somewhat broke in the rain. Never a good idea, but Steve Efford is trying to get onto the back of Jamie Ayres, and you've got Charles Kellerman being a bit of a roadblock here at the moment as Ralph Cullinan just goes up the inside.
Yeah, it looks like Ralph Cullinan has found his feet at last, and he's managed to make his way through on Kellerman into third place. He can concentrate on going after Steve Efford now, whilst Jamie Wilson is the next to tussle it out with Kellerman, with Pete Newman making his way through once more.
Yeah, Dan Hunt just coming past Darrell Wright. Darrell Wright also losing a place to Ollie Ricks. Kellerman's leading the arms. He isn't going to want to let that slip if he can help it, but he can't drive too slow because all the others are closing in at a rapid rate of knots for Charles Kellerman. So he's got to make sure he can at least try and stay ahead where he can. Wilson pulls out to the left-hand side. Going around turn 1, don't be on the outside for turn 2. Get it braked, get it stopped and pull it in, because you don't want to be drifting out onto that grass in turn 2. You ain't stopping the car otherwise.
Yeah, you don't want to be on the puddles on the outside there. My argument would be, if there's grip on the outside, that may give you a little bit of an advantage on the exit and give you all the speed you need. But we've seen Dan Hunt getting out of shape through turn number 2, having an absolute rough ride of it so far in this race behind Pete Newman. Dan Hunt, who's won 2 races this evening already, who will be wanting to try and make it number 3. Won't want to think about the win just yet. He's got some work to do to make. He's just been overtaken by Ollie Ricks. Makes an absolute dive bomb, but it worked.
Yeah, he come from absolutely nowhere. The trouble is, he's going to have the outside for the left-hander at Siberia, which is going to give Dan Hunt the inside line. Ricks has got nowhere to go on that outside line. The track just narrows up so carefully. Roger Morton's on the inside. He's going to look at making the move as well if he can. Is he going to be able to hold it round the left-hander? I'm expected to see Ollie Ricks come in. There he is there. Is he still going to come up our outside? He's not. He thought better of it, did Ollie Ricks, and he just stays there for a minute. But Jamie Ayres out in front by 1.3 seconds with Steve Efford in behind him, and then you've got Ralph Cullinan, who's under pressure from Jamie Wilson. So yeah, a lot going on in this front pack, and we'll have to see how it all pans out here.
Yeah, you can just see Wilson all over the back of Cullinan already. Wilson, who hasn't been brave enough in getting through on drivers into the first corner of tonight, which is why he hasn't been picking up the better results than he has been doing, but he's got to think, I've got to get a move on here and just make my way through.
Yeah, he's got to get on with it. He's been in prime position so many times. He's got to make them moves. He's got to do it. It looks like he has just done it past Ralph Cullinan. They are a little bit of an argy-bargy. Cullinan's going to have the inside. Wilson's got to be brave. Go. Nope. Just can't hold that outside line, and Cullinan says thank you very much. As you can see, I'm all sliding around there. Dan Hunt now with Charles Kellerman in front. Kellerman leading the arms with Ollie Ricks behind him, not too far back either. So he's another man that's got to make a choice. Fight with Dan Hunt, let him go, and concentrate on trying to stay ahead of Ollie Ricks.
Yep. The rain doesn't seem to be too heavy. It feels like really light, if it is raining at all. Dan Hunt on the inside of Pete Newman. You can just see the spray being kicked up on the windscreen there. I don't know if it's rain that's falling or whether it's just the leftover spray on the circuit. But either way, Dan Hunt is making hard work of Pete Newman, and he's just oversteering, sliding around and not really gaining anything.
No, his inputs are insane on the wheel. If you just watch, he's just literally trying to push that car to the absolute ragged edge. It's just, look, move, snap, moves. You know what I mean? He's like doing the conga, isn't he? He's in, out. It's just like, I don't even know what. If he's got any form of force feedback on that wheel, he is going to have guns the size of Arnold Schwarzenegger by the time he finishes this race.
I honestly thought you were going to finish that phrase of in, out. I think you know what was going to come next after that. But Dan Hunt is approaching the back of Pete Newman once more. He hasn't got long left. There are 9 minutes to go in this 4th race here. I don't know if it's going to be a 9-lap one. It'll probably be 8. We'll find out soon enough. But meanwhile, we've got Steve Efford on the tail of Jamie Ayres approaching turn number 1. I can tell you they are on the same team, those two, in the Momo camp. They'll just want to keep it clean for the time being. Dan Hunt behind Pete Newman now in their battle, whilst we're watching Ollie Ricks go for it on Charles Kellerman. Ollie Ricks was yet to take a victory here this evening. Goes round the outside of Charles Kellerman, but it looks like he's gone in a little too deep.
Yeah, the car was sideways there. He was Bambi on ice at one moment there, was Ollie Ricks. He managed to get it back, going in the right direction, but yeah, that's tough. Hefford's all dived to airs. Oh, there's so much going on at the front of this field. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah. And we are seeing Hefford on, well, to the rear of as they approach Siberia, and looking at the battles going on further behind. Rick's moving back in front of Kellerman in their own battle, as are Cullinan and Newman. We're looking at the timing towers of each category, and we are seeing, and is that Cullinan and Newman still going toe to toe, and Dan Hunt's in the battle in that particular trio.
Yeah, Hunt's just got nowhere to go. That's the problem. He hasn't got anywhere to go. He doesn't really know where to go. When you're on a rain-soaked track and you've got everybody battling it out, there's not a lot of places you can go. Hunt now goes around the outside of Cullinan. Somebody in 15th there, I believe that might be Roger Morton, has ended up upside down.
Yeah, not for the first time this evening. Has he done exactly the same thing as what he did in the warm-up? Although this was accidental, I would have thought.
How did he do that? And then does
Got
this.
the bank in. Yeah.
Yeah, I think poor old Roger Morton's just having a bit of a rough time of it, isn't he? Let's be real about it. I think he did exactly the same thing in practice, didn't he? He applied the throttle too quick. That back end's going to come round. There you go. He goes up exactly the same part and does exactly the same job, does Roger Morton. So there we go.
He joins Pete Van Gaal back in the pits there. No points, unfortunately, for Roger Morton. But the battle still rages on it between Cullinan, Newman and Ollie Ricks, who's ahead now of Charles Kellerman. And he's on the inside of Jamie Wilson. And we're starting to see the Ollie Ricks that we know of.
Yeah, this is what the Ricks we expect. And it's taken the rain to get him. You know, maybe for Ollie, we should get rain every single week, because he was good in the rain, I believe, last week as well, if I remember correctly. And at the end of the day, you know, he could do with rain every single time. And he's so good in it. But it just doesn't rain every race for Ollie Ricks, unfortunately.
No, unfortunately not. And Ricks is tucked up behind Cullinan for P5. He doesn't need to worry about him. He just needs to make sure he wins in the AM class. Jamie Ayres and Steve Hefford are still first and second, respectively. There is a little bit of a gap between the pair of them. So it's not like they're bump drafting each other too much. They've got a 4.5 second lead over Dan Hunt in third place, who's concentrating on his own battle.
Yeah, Dan Hunt is in that rock-hard place, isn't he? He knows he's got the speed to go forward. So has Pete Newman. However, Pete did, well, both of them did actually, coming out of that corner, get a nice big slide on coming out of MG. The problem is they've got the Irishman of Ralph Cullinan and Ollie Ricks, so they're all battling away, which is then making nobody go forward, because it's like the rules, right? You battle, you end up being slower, and unfortunately for these guys, they are slower, and now Newman's got to make a choice. Where are you going to go? He's going to, he waited for Hunt to move. Ricks slots in behind the Hunt. Here we go. Look at the closing speed on the two. They're just like coming up like an absolute rocket. Both of them got to break a little bit early. Newman's going to have the inside, I think, here, Tom.
Yep, he's managed to make it work. Excellent, I would say, for Newman. A little bit squirmish on the brakes there, and we're watching Ricks thinking about a move of his own on Cullinan, but he's having to go wide to avoid a collision, or he's falling back behind Wilson again, so he won't want to make too many mistakes from here on in now. Does Ollie Ricks. Hunt on the inside of Newman. This is not the last of what we're going to see from this evening between these two. Cullinan making a move of his own round the outside. If he can keep alongside on the exit, then you'll have the inside line for Siberia. Just see Newman nearly running into Hunt into turn number 4 and gets away with it.
Yeah, that was very touch and go, let's put it that way. We've seen the contacts like that for most of the evening, and we've seen that they haven't always worked out well. Craig Jones, it's not all about you, let's just put it that way. You're not even on the racetrack, so I doubt very much he does on that one, as Ayres and Hefford are still fighting out. Hunt, Newman, Cullinan and Wilson still scrapping it away here as well. So great little battles from the top, well, that's just saying the top two. They haven't really done anything, have they? They've been kind of follow me leader and kind of open up the gap as much as possible. I'm sure Hefford's not going to want to He's going to want to take the win. There you go. Let's put that in a lot more of an easier bit of English. But I can tell you one thing. He's going to have to try and clear Jamie Ayres. And this is the corner. This is the run. But what has he got in front of him as Jamie Ayres starts getting up to speed? Oh, well.
We got out of shape.
Yeah.
That was very close.
This should be it. This should be it.
He can't hold back. He shouldn't hold back to Steve Parfitt, and he's not going to hold back. Or does he? He just lifted off the throttle into turn number 1. He decided not to go for it. I'm actually surprised he's not gone for it. Well, one driver who is going for it is Pete Newman on Dan Hunt for 3rd place.
Yeah, how's he going to stop it? That's the question. Oh, yay. Look at the slide. Look at the slide from Newman.
Yeah, he did very well to get that slowed down. Didn't go too far out wide either, so that was a inch perfect overtake from Pete Newman, but Dan Hunt is still there.
He's not giving it out. They're running side by side down the left-hander into Honda. Newman should have that inside line coming into Honda. Hunt's got to leave the door. Don't cover him off. Newman's gone in. He's almost gone round there as if he's on a motocross bike, and he's taken the right-hander as tight as possible. He flicked that back end round of that MX5 and did a great job in the process, but it just wasn't any speed to it. There was nothing there. He flicked the back end round and he just didn't go anywhere. As you see, Wilson gets it all wrong. He loses a place to Ollie Ricks and Ralph Cullinan now. So yeah, we're going to be on the final lap this time around. Whether or not Heffert's going to make a move over Jamie Ayres, we're going to see. And who's going to win out the Dan Hunt, Pete Newman situation?
Well, if he's not going to go for it, Steve Hefford, when will he ever? I mean, next time around will be the last lap of the race. And you could just see Ayres not getting the power down as sweetly as he would have liked out of turn number 10. And that's surely going to give Hefford all the encouragement he needs. Although, yeah, Newman's off. He's had a spin. Hope to get a replay of that to see what had gone on. Oh, he was out of shape already into turn number 10. He went wide and he had to get the car. So, no, don't take someone out there, Pete. Thankful. Oh, dearie me. That's a dangerous rejoin, isn't it?
Yeah, he got all out of shape on the curb and then he just is not stopping that car. You can see he's on the brakes. The car's just like, no. And he's there praying, and then he tries to get on the power, but he's still on the curb. He just misses Jamie Wilson. Ooh, Pete Newman. Not your greatest finest moment there, young sir.
That allows Dan Hunt into the podium places in the pro class, but this is the centre of attention we want to be focusing on. It is the battle for the win. Jamie has yet to win tonight. Steve Hefford already has a win, I believe. I can't quite remember off the top of my head. There's so much that's been going on this evening. Either way, they want to end the evening on a high between these two. They are within the same team. When does Steve Hefford go for it, or is he waiting for that all-important drag race to the line?
He's not going to go for it. I'm going to write it down now. I'll write down who wins each race, and I think the only difference is what we've got on race 1 here. I had Ayres as the winner. I'm going to put down Ayres, and then I'm going to put down Hefford. I don't believe Steve's going to go for it. I might be wrong, and if I am, I'll eat my words and say me apologies, but I don't think I am at the moment. I think Steve Hefford is not going to make that move.
Wait and see. Well, he's all over the back of as they approach turn number 10 for the last time. 4, 3, 2 and 1. 2 more corners to go. Can Hefford get a run on Ayres to the line? It looks like he's too far back. So Jamie Ayres should have all the buffer he needs to take a victory, which was rightly deserved after a brilliant race, after so much heartache in the first 3. But he wins out in the end over Steve Hefford by half a second. Ayres wins at Phillip Island ahead of his teammate, and it's Dan Hunt in 3rd place. Ollie Ricks at last picks up a win to round off what's been a rather rough evening for him. It's Ralph Cullinan finishing nicely again in 5th place and 4th in class, ahead of Jamie Wilson and Pete Newman. Charles Kellerman and Darren McLean complete the podium finishes out of all those in AM. Martin Sampson rounds out the top 10 overall, and we should wait to see Dale Wright, Fiona Siddons, Andy Littler, Steve Hansford and Sir Alan Toon to finish. We've got a bit of time actually before the rest of the finishes do come round.
Yeah, Alan Toon's all the way back around the other side of the circuit at the moment. He's back round at Siberia, so unfortunately for Toon, he did have a little bit of a problem. should we say? I'm not entirely sure what the problem was. He's already lost whatever that problem was. Where did you lose that, Mr. Tooney? Here we go.
Wait.
What?
Has he had a tangle with someone?
No, the back end's going. Oh, yes, he did, but the back end was already going.
Yeah, so that was Salentine, I'm afraid, on that one. The front bumper going. It might be a bit of time before we see Salentine make it to the end. They all get to the end, so he could just bag some points.
Oh,
4 races done. Yeah, well, he's able to keep going. Is Steve Hansford there, who's not had a good evening, but he was able to. We haven't seen too much of him, but at least he brings the car home.
Yeah, he gets it over the line. It's always good. So does Alan Toon. So both of them finished. There you go. What more could you ask for? At least they finished all 4 races. I suppose that's always a winner, isn't it? Really.
Good to see. That is the final race of this evening done. Let's have a look on the results. Jamie Ayres winning out in the end, ahead of Steve Hefford. It's Dan Hunt in 3rd place. Ollie Ricks, winner in AM in 4th. And it's Ralph Cullingham, Jamie Wilson and Pete Newman next in the Pro. Charles Hillerman, 2nd in AM. Darren McLean, 3rd in the same class. Martin Sampson running up the top 10 in Pro. Darryl Wright, 11th, ahead of Fiona Siddons. Andy Littler, Steve Hansford and Alan Toon finishing. Roger Morton and Pete Van Gogh did not make it to the end of the race, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, some people didn't get to finish on that one, but it was a great race from everyone as well, and they've done an absolutely stellar job here. Round 5 is down there, Mr. Cairns, so we're going to have to find out, how they get on next week and what goes on. Round 6, of course, we've done Phillip Island. It's at Canadian Motorsport Park, or Mosport, depending on what you call it, and that alone is going to be very exciting if they end up out on the outside of Turn 2.
Absolutely so, and I'm very much looking forward to it. Thank you very much, James, for joining me in the commentary position, and thank you to the drivers for their participation in this evening. We're seeing some cracking action, and that won't be the last of it by any means. We look forward to seeing more of that in 7 days' time at Canadian Motorsport Park. Make sure you like and subscribe in case you did enjoy that, or you haven't already subscribed. Do make sure you click that button. We recently hit 2,000 subscribers on the JP Broadcasting YouTube channel. We hope to add to that in the near future. James, once again, thank you for joining me, and we'll do it all again in 7 days' time. I'm Tom Cairns, he's James Parfitt, and we'll speak to you again soon when UK SimRacers returns.